Right here is where the crime takes place. Right here is where they were camped. We're going to walk up this way. I've reset this at 1¼ mile. Property was brought to Cedar City and sold at public auction. It is called in Cedar City and is now so called by the facetious Mormons the property taken at the siege of Sebastopol. The clothing stripped from the corpses, bloody and with bits of flesh upon it, shredded by the bullets from the persons of the poor creatures who wore it, was placed in the cellar of the tithing office, an official building, where it lay about 3 weeks, when it was brought away by some of the party, but witnesses do not know whether it was sold or given away. It was auctioned off. It is said the seller smells of it even to this day. There's legal proof that this property was sold at the official tithing office of the church. Whitlock says that this man could not report the details of the massacre without tears and trembling. This is one of the apostate Mormons who had to be at the scene, is coming to Carlton and Judge Cradlebaugh and confessing their crime. The man said he saw children clinging around the knees of the murderers, begging for mercy and offering themselves as slaves for life if they could be spared, but their throats were cut from ear to ear as an answer to their appeal. There are now wagons, carriages, and cattle in possession of the Mormons, which can be sworn to as having belonged to these immigrants by those who saw them upon the plains. 248 head of cattle were sold on the Jordan River after their arrival of the army. So those cattle were branded with the church brand, which is it's a Christian cross, that's right. The Mormon brand, the official church brand, is a cross. They're trying to make a point. Are you getting the message? Before my arrival, Campbell had caused to be collected and buried the bones of 36, not 26, of the victims. Dr. Brewer informed me that the remains of 18 were buried in one grave, 12 in another, 6 in another. All on page 19. I gathered many of the disjointed bones of 34 persons. The numbers could easily be told by the number of pairs of shoulder blades and by the lower jaws, skulls, and other parts of skulls, etc. Around and above this grave I caused to be built of loose granite stones a monument reading, "Here 120 men, women, and children were massacred in cold blood early in September 1857. They were from Arkansas." So Brigham Young comes out a few years later, makes his arm into the Freemason sign of a right angle, the arm up, and without saying a word, all the Mormons with him systematically demolished this monument. I observed that nearly every skull had been shot through with revolver or rifle bullets. I did not see one that had been broken in with stones, as certain Mormons and Indians like Albert Hamblin claim. Dr. Brewer showed me one that was probably of a boy of 18, which had been fractured and slipped, which I don't understand, doubtless by 2 blows of a bowie knife, must have been Stewart, or other instrument of that character. I saw several bones that must have been of very small children. Brewer says that he thinks some infants were butchered. To study the subject, you might as well get the Mormon version, which isn't an entirely bad version. So here's where they show the massacre occurring. And you'll see on Google Earth, this area here, it'll be a little clearer. And so this is honest. Where they start to obfuscate is sort of bringing in the Indian side, like John D. Lee and the Mormons were trying to do. On the one hand, they'll point out that it was the Mormons, and then you can get a whole chapter of sort of this backpedaling, if you will.